There is a lake in Tajikistan that did not exist 100 years ago, and if it breaks, 5 million people could lose everything. That is just one of the many crazy facts about this hidden nation. It is a place where people live in the clouds and drink tea while looking at the borders of Afghanistan and China. It is not that simple, though. Behind the epic views is a story of a nation that rebuilt itself from the ground up. From record-breaking flagpoles to secret Soviet bunkers, Tajikistan is a wild ride. You won't believe what comes next. The land of vertical giants. The story of Tajikistan begins with a collision. Millions of years ago, the Indian tectonic plate slammed into the Eurasian plate. This was not a soft landing. It was a violent, earth-shattering event that pushed the crust toward the stars. The result is a country that is basically one massive mountain range. To understand this place, one must realize that 93% of the territory is covered by mountains. Half of the country sits at a height of over 9,800 feet above sea level. This is not just high, it is life-altering. In the east, the Pamir Mountains stand over the horizon. These are known locally as the Bami Dunya, or the roof of the world. The highest point is the Ismail Somoni Peak, which reaches 24,590 feet into the atmosphere. During the Soviet era, this was the highest mountain in the entire USSR. But the height is only part of the story. The terrain is so rough that only 7% of the land can be used for farming. This creates a unique challenge for the 10 million people who call this place home. The mountains are not just rocks, they are the water towers of Central Asia. Tajikistan holds over 8,000 glaciers. The largest is the Fedchenko Glacier. It is the longest glacier in the world outside of the polar regions, stretching for 48 miles. Imagine a river of ice so large it can be seen clearly from orbit. This ice is the lifeblood of the region, feeding the Amu Darya River. Without these mountains, the surrounding deserts in Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan would be impossible to live in. But here is the catch. These mountains are moving. Tajikistan is one of the places where earthquakes happen a lot. Small tremors happen almost every day, and major earthquakes have reshaped the geography in recent history. In 1911, a massive quake caused a mountain to collapse into a valley, creating a natural dam. This dam formed Lake Sarez, a body of water that contains 4 cubic miles of water. It is held back by a pile of rubble called the USOI Dam. If that natural wall fails, it would create a wall of water that could wipe out entire regions across 4 different countries. The sheer scale of the landscape makes travel a nightmare. There are only 2 main roads that connect to the north to the south. For much of the year, high passes are blocked by snow that can be 20 feet deep. This isolation has kept ancient cultures that have vanished elsewhere. People in remote valleys still speak languages that date back to the time of Alexander the Great. They live in stone houses designed to last through the brutal cold of winters, where temperatures drop to -40 degrees Fahrenheit. The verticality of the nation also defines its economy. Since the land is too steep for traditional industry, Tajikistan has turned to the power of falling water. The Nurek Dam is a marvel of engineering. At 984 feet tall, it was the highest man-made dam in the world for decades. It creates a reservoir that is over 40 miles long. This single dam provides the majority of the country's electricity. It is a testament to how the Tajiks have tamed a landscape that seems designed to push humans out. However, the cost of living in such a place is high. Roads and buildings are constantly destroyed by landslides and avalanches. Every spring, as the snow melts, the rivers turn into raging torrents of mud and stone. The people who live here do not just inhabit the land, they negotiate with it every single day. They have built a civilization where others see only obstacles. Hands down, it is the most tough population in the region. The mountains are also home to incredible wildlife. Snow leopards, the ghosts of the mountains, still hunt in the high Pamirs. There are only a few thousand of these cats left in the wild, and Tajikistan is one of their last strongholds. They share the crags with the Marco Polo sheep, famous for their massive, spiraling horns that can reach 60 inches in length. These animals are symbols of a wilderness that remains largely untouched by the modern world. The deep valleys of the Pamirs hide more than just animals. They hide legends. Locals speak of the ghoul, a wild man covered in hair that supposedly roams the high-altitude forests. While scientists are not sure, the vastness of the unexplored terrain makes anything seem possible. When the sun sets behind the jagged peaks, the shadows grow long and the air grows thin. It is easy to see why this place has inspired myths for millennia, but the real mystery lies in the people who chose to stay in these heights. Long before the modern borders were drawn, Tajikistan was the ultimate crossroads. If a merchant wanted to get silk from China to Rome, they had to pass through these mountains. This was the Silk Road, but it was not just one road. It was a web of dangerous trails, high passes, and fortified cities. The Tajiks are the descendants of the Sogdians, the master merchants of the ancient world. These people were the middlemen of the planet, speaking a dozen languages and trading everything from horses to glass. The city of Penjikent is the Pompeii of Central Asia. Founded in the 5th century, it was a flourishing hub of culture and wealth. Today, the ruins stand as a silent witness to a golden age. Excavations have revealed 2-story houses, grand temples, and some of the most detailed murals ever discovered. These paintings show scenes of banquets, battles, and religious rituals. They prove that while the terrain was harsh, the culture was advanced. The Sogdians did not just survive, they thrived. But it is not that simple, though. The wealth of the Silk Road made these cities targets. Over the centuries, waves of invaders crashed against the Pamir foothills. Alexander the Great arrived in the 4th century BCE. He founded the city of Alexandria Escate, which translates to Alexandria the Furthest. Today, that city is known as Kujan. It remains one of the oldest cities in Central Asia, sitting on the banks of the Sirdaria River. Legend says Alexander fell in love with a local princess named Roxana, blending the bloodlines of Europe and Asia. After the Greeks came the Arabs, who brought a new faith and a new language. But the most significant era for Tajik identity was the Samanid Empire in the 9th and 10th centuries. This was the Persian Renaissance. Under rulers like Ismail Somoni, the city of Bukhara, now in Uzbekistan but then a Tajik cultural heart, became a center of science and poetry. This was the time of Avicenna, the father of modern medicine, and Rudaki, the father of Persian poetry. For the Tajiks, this is the foundation of their national pride. Samanids built monuments that still defy time. In the city of Dushanbe, a massive gold-covered statue of Ismail Somoni stands 84 feet tall. It is a reminder of a time when this region led the world in intellect and power. But get this, the empire eventually crumbled under the weight of Mongol invasions. Genghis Khan's armies swept through the valleys, leveling cities and destroying the irrigation systems that had supported millions. The Silk Road began to fade, and the mountain kingdoms retreated into isolation. This isolation was both a curse and a blessing. While the rest of the world moved toward the Industrial Revolution, the mountain Tajiks kept their ancient traditions alive. In the Wakhan Valley, which borders Afghanistan, people still live in Pamiri houses. These structures are architectural masterpieces of meaning. Every pillar and beam represents a religious or philosophical concept. The central skylight, made of 4 concentric squares, represents the 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and air. The history of the Silk Road is also a history of faith. Tajikistan was a melting pot of religions. Before Islam became the dominant force, the region was a stronghold of Zoroastrianism, the ancient fire-worshipping religion of Persia. Archaeologists have found fire altars and towers of silence where the dead were placed. Buddhism also left its mark. In the 1960s, Soviet archaeologists discovered a massive reclining Buddha statue in the south of the country. It is nearly 43 feet long and dates back 1,600 years. Today, this history is being reclaimed. The Tajiks are looking back at their Sogdian and Samanid roots to build a modern national identity. They see themselves not just as a post-Soviet state, but as the heirs to a civilization that once connected the entire known world. The bazaars of Khujand and Dushanbe still hum with the energy of trade. You can still buy silk, spices, and hand-carved knives that look exactly like the ones carried by merchants 2,000 years ago. The Silk Road may be a memory, but its ghost lives on in every cup of tea shared in a roadside caravanserai. In the 1920s, the map of the world changed forever. The Russian Empire collapsed and the Soviet Union rose in its place. Tajikistan, which had been a collection of semi-independent khanates and mountain tribes, was suddenly pulled into the giant machine of the USSR. In 1929, it became the Tajik Soviet Socialist Republic. This was the beginning of a radical transformation. The Soviets wanted to bring progress to the mountains, but it came at a staggering cost. The first thing the Soviets did was build. They saw the mountains as a source of raw materials and energy. They constructed roads where only goat paths existed. They built schools, hospitals, and massive apartment blocks. Dushanbe, which was a small village known for its Monday market, the name Dushanbe actually means Monday in Tajik, was turned into a grand capital city. They lined the streets with fancy old-style buildings and planted thousands of trees to fight the summer heat, but there was a catch. To build this new world, the Soviets forced thousands of people to move. Entire villages in the mountains were emptied and the residents were sent to the southern lowlands to grow cotton. Cotton became the white gold of the Soviet Union, but it was a disaster for the people. Many mountain Tajiks, unaccustomed to the heat and the diseases of the plains, died. The traditional way of life was held down, religion was banned, and mosques were turned into warehouses or museums of atheism. Despite the holding down of culture, the Soviet era brought massive roads and buildings. They built the Pamir Highway, a feat of engineering that defies logic. It is the second highest international road in the world, reaching a height of 15,270 feet at the Akbaital Pass. This road was designed to move military equipment and supplies to the border with China and Afghanistan. It is a ribbon of asphalt that clings to the sides of mountains, crossing high-altitude deserts that look like the surface of the moon. The Soviets also left behind closed cities. These were places that did not appear on any official maps. One of them was Tabosha, now called Istiklal. It was a center for uranium mining. The uranium used in the first Soviet atomic bomb came from the mountains of Tajikistan. Today, these areas are a haunting reminder of the Cold War. Rusting machinery and abandoned mines litter the landscape, creating environmental challenges that the country is still trying to solve. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, Tajikistan was left in an empty space. Unlike its neighbors who had oil or gas, Tajikistan had very little. The sudden loss of Soviet government money triggered a brutal internal conflict. This was not a war against outsiders. It was a struggle between different regions and ideas. From 1992 to 1997, the country was torn apart. Tens of thousands of people lost their lives and the economy was completely destroyed. Basically, the country had to start from zero. The conflict ended with a peace deal in 1997, and since then, the focus has been on stability and reconstruction. You can see this transition in Dushanbe. The city is a strange mix of Soviet concrete and hypermodern monuments. In 2011, Tajikistan built the world's second tallest flagpole, standing 541 feet high. It cost millions of dollars and was a clear signal to the world: we are still here and we are looking up. The Soviet shadow is still long. Russian is still the language of business and law for many. Thousands of Tajiks travel to Russia every year to find work, sending money back home to support their families. This migration is the backbone of the modern economy. But there is a growing movement to embrace the Tajik language and Persian culture. The statues of Lenin have been replaced by statues of Ismail Somoni. The red stars are gone, but the grit remains. Tajikistan is a nation that has survived the rise and fall of two of the greatest empires in history. The road follows the Panj River, which forms the border with Afghanistan. For hundreds of miles, you can look across the water and see Afghan villages just a few dozen feet away. It is one of the most unique borders in the world. There is no wall, no fence, just a raging river and a 1,000-foot cliff. In some places, the road is so narrow that two cars cannot pass each other. One has to reverse toward the edge. As the road climbs higher, the air begins to thin. This is the Gorno-Badakhshan Autonomous Region, or GBAO. It covers nearly half of the country, but holds only 3% of the population. This is the true roof of the world. The landscape changes from green forests to a high-altitude desert. It looks like Mars. The ground is red and brown, and there are no trees. The only things that grow here are low shrubs and hardy grasses that feed the yaks. The WTF factor of the Pamir Highway is the Akbaital Pass. At 15,270 feet, it is higher than any point in the mainland United States. At this height, your lungs struggle to find oxygen. The car engines lose power. People get altitude sickness, feeling like their heads are in a vice. But for the truck drivers who haul supplies across this pass, it is just another day at the office. They drive massive Soviet-era Kamaz trucks that belch black smoke as they crawl over the pass at 5 miles per hour. But the road is more than just a challenge. It is a community. Because the environment is so hostile, hospitality is not just a tradition, it is a survival mechanism. If your car breaks down on the Pamir Highway, the next person who passes will stop. They have to. Leaving someone alone in the mountains is a death sentence. Travelers often stay in homestays, where Pamiri families open their doors, offer hot tea, and provide a place on the floor to sleep. The Pamir Highway is also a route for something much darker. Because it borders Afghanistan, it has historically been a major path for the illegal drug trade. Gallons of liquid chemicals go in, and tons of product come out. The government and international organizations have spent millions trying to secure the border, but the terrain makes it nearly impossible. It is a game of cat and mouse played out in the highest mountains on Earth. The highway leads to Murgab, the highest town in Tajikistan. It is a place that feels like the end of the world. The houses are made of whitewashed mud brick, and the shopping mall is a collection of old shipping containers. There is very little electricity and no running water in most homes. People here are tough. They live on a diet of bread, tea, and yak meat. They are the guardians of the high plateau. Living in a place where most humans would give up in a week, driving the M41 is a badge of honor. It is a test of a person's nerves and a vehicle's durability. You will see ancient fortresses built by Silk Road kings, turquoise lakes that seem to glow, and stars so bright they cast shadows. But you must never forget the danger. One wrong turn, one patch of black ice, and you become part of the mountain. But the most terrifying part of the journey isn't the road itself. It is what is hidden beneath the water of the high-altitude lakes. A single crack in a natural wall could trigger the world's largest flood. Deep within the heart of the Gorno-Badakhshan region, hidden behind walls of jagged rock, lies a body of water that is as terrifying as it is beautiful. This is Lake Sarez. To look at it is to see a mirror of the sky, a deep, impossibly blue expanse of water surrounded by peaks that look like broken teeth. But this lake is not a natural feature of the ancient landscape. It was born in a moment of absolute violence. On the night of February 18, 1911, a massive earthquake, estimated at a size of 7.4, tore through the mountains. In a matter of minutes, an entire mountain collapsed. 2.2 billion tons of rock and earth slid into the Murghab River Valley. This was not just a landslide, it was the largest natural dam ever recorded in human history. The debris pile, now known as the USOI Dam, reached a height of nearly 2,000 feet. Behind this accidental wall, the river began to pool. It swallowed the village of Sarez, from which the lake takes its name, and continued to rise for decades. Today, the lake is over 46 miles long and more than 1,600 feet deep. It holds 4 cubic miles of water. That is enough water to submerge the entire city of New York under 60 feet of liquid. But here is the deal. The USOI Dam is not made of reinforced concrete or engineered steel. It is a pile of loose boulders and dirt. Scientists call it a sleeping dragon because it is a disaster waiting for a trigger. If another major earthquake hits the region, and remember, this is one of the areas where earthquakes happen a lot, the dam could fail. The resulting wall of water would be hundreds of feet high. It would roar down the Bartang, Panj, and Amu Darya rivers, traveling at speeds that would make evacuation impossible. It wouldn't just affect Tajikistan. The flood would surge across Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and into Afghanistan, potentially affecting the lives of 5 million people. The crazy part is that there is already a leak. Water is constantly leaking through the base of the dam, creating a series of springs. While this helps regulate the water level, it also causes internal erosion. Geologists are worried about a massive, partially detached rock mass on the right bank of the lake. If this mass slides into the water, it could create a mega tsunami that would overtop the dam, washing away the crest and causing a total collapse. The government has installed an advanced early warning system with sensors and satellite links, but in a landscape this rough, technology can only do so much. It is a constant game of Russian roulette played with the elements. What most people don't realize is the psychological toll this takes on the people living downstream. In the Bartang Valley, villages are built on small, flat land at the base of the mountains. There is nowhere to run. They live their lives under the shadow of a mountain that could, at any second, turn into a liquid wall of death. And that's putting it lightly. Despite the danger, the lake remains a destination for the bravest travelers. Reaching it requires a multi-day trek or a helicopter ride, as there are no roads. It is a place of haunting silence, where the only sound is the wind and the distant cracking of glaciers. But the water of Tajikistan is not always a threat. Sometimes it is the only thing that keeps the lights on. If Lake Sarez is the uncontrolled terror of the Tajik mountains, the Nurek Dam is the ultimate symbol of human control. Located on the Vaksh River, just a few hours' drive from the capital, this dam is a monster of the Soviet era. At 984 feet tall, it was the highest man-made dam in the world until China completed the Jinping-I Dam in 2013. To stand at the base of Nurek is to feel incredibly small. It is a wall of earth and rock that seems to block out the sun. The construction of Nurek was a feat of toughness that lasted from 1961 to 1980. The Soviets had to move 54 million cubic yards of material to create the huge wall. They weren't just building a dam, they were building an entire ecosystem of energy. The powerhouse contains 9 massive turbines that generate over 3,000 megawatts of electricity. For a country with no significant oil or gas reserves, Nurek is everything. It provides nearly 75% of the nation's total electricity. Without it, Tajikistan would literally be in the dark. The reservoir created by the dam is an emerald green lake that stretches for 43 miles. It has become a popular spot for locals to escape the heat of the plains. You will see people swimming and boating in the shadow of the massive intake towers, but beneath the surface, the pressure is immense. The dam has to withstand the weight of 10 billion cubic meters of water. Because it is an earth-filled dam, it is actually more flexible and resistant to earthquakes than a concrete gravity dam. This was a deliberate choice by the engineers, knowing the ground beneath their feet was prone to shifting. But here is the catch. The Nurek Dam is getting old. Over the decades, silt from the mountains has begun to fill the reservoir. This reduces the amount of water it can hold and can damage the turbines. The government, with international help, is currently undergoing a massive multi-$100 million renovation to replace the turbines and strengthen the structure. It is a race against time. If Nurek goes offline, the Tajik economy collapses. The dependency is absolute. This dependency has also created bad feelings with Tajikistan's neighbors. Downstream countries like Uzbekistan rely on the Vaksh and Amu Darya rivers for their massive cotton industries. When Tajikistan holds back water in the winter to generate electricity for heating, it reduces the flow for irrigation in the summer. For years, this led to diplomatic shouting matches and even threats of conflict. It is the classic struggle of upstream versus downstream. Tajikistan wants light and heat. Uzbekistan wants water for its crops. In recent years, the bad feelings have cooled, but the stakes are getting higher with the construction of the Rogan Dam. Located even further upstream, Rogan is planned to be 1,070 feet tall, reclaiming the title of the world's tallest dam. The cotton monopoly. While the high mountains are the domain of glaciers and dams, the southern lowlands of Tajikistan are defined by a single plant, cotton. During the Soviet era, Tajikistan was transformed into a massive plantation. The planners in Moscow decided that the Central Asian republics would be the cotton base for the entire USSR. They called it white gold, and for a while it seemed like a miracle. But the cost was a generation of freedom and the health of the land. The Soviets built thousands of miles of irrigation canals, diverting water from the great rivers to turn the dry steppes into green fields. They forced thousands of mountain villagers to move down to the plains to work the fields. These internal migrants often faced brutal conditions, living in temporary shelters and working 12 hours a day under a sun that can push temperatures to 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Cotton is a thirsty crop, and it is also a labor-intensive one. Even after independence in 1991, the cotton curse remained. For years, the industry was controlled by a few powerful elites who owned the ginning factories and the land. The farmers were often debt-bonded, forced to buy seeds and fertilizer from the owners and then sell the cotton back at prices that barely covered their costs. Of students and even doctors and nurses were sent into the fields to pick cotton by hand. It was a system of state-sponsored forced labor that only recently began to fade under international pressure. The environmental cost has been just as high. The massive use of pesticides and fertilizers poisoned the groundwater in the south. In some regions, the rates of birth defects and respiratory illnesses are significantly higher than the national average. Furthermore, the diversion of water for cotton is the primary reason the Aral Sea, once the fourth largest lake in the world, has almost completely disappeared. Tajikistan sits at the headwaters, but the hunger for white gold downstream and at home has turned a once fertile region into a salt desert. Today, the government is trying to try new things. They are encouraging farmers to grow fruits, nuts, and vegetables instead. Tajik cherries and apricots are world famous for their sweetness, often exported to Russia and China. But breaking the total control of cotton is not that simple, though. The roads and buildings, the canals, the factories, the transport lines is all built for cotton. Shifting an entire agricultural economy takes decades, and for many in the South, the rhythm of the cotton harvest is the only life they have ever known. Walking through a southern bazaar in the autumn, you can still see the bags of raw cotton piled high. It is a reminder of the country's Soviet past and its struggle to find a new identity. The southern Tajiks are different from the Pamiris of the east. Their culture is more influenced by the agricultural traditions of the lowlands, and their history is tied to the rise and fall of the cotton markets. They are a people of the soil, just as the Pamiris are a people of the stone. But regardless of whether they live in a cotton field or on a cliffside, there is one thing that unites every Tajik: the bread. In Tajikistan, you can go without meat, you can go without tea, but you can never go without naan. Naan is the traditional flatbread. And in this country, it is treated with a level of respect that borders on the religious. It is not just a source of energy, it is the symbol of life, family, and hospitality. To waste a single crumb of bread is considered a sin. If a Tajik sees a piece of bread on the ground, they will pick it up, kiss it, and place it on a high ledge where animals can eat it, but where it won't be stepped on. The naan is baked in a tandoor, a clay oven that looks like a large jar. The baker slaps the dough against the white-hot inner walls of the oven where it sticks and bakes in minutes. The result is a circular loaf with a thick, chewy rim and a thin, crispy center. Every region has its own style. The naan from the north is large and thin, while the naan from the Pamirs is thick and heavy, designed to provide energy for the high altitudes. Often the center is decorated with detailed patterns using a chekich, a wooden tool with metal pins. The rules around bread are strict. You never cut bread with a knife. That is seen as an act of violence against the food. You always tear it by hand. You never place a loaf of bread upside down on the table, as this is thought to bring bad luck. When a guest arrives, the first thing they are offered is bread and a bowl of tea. In ancient times, bread was used in wedding ceremonies and to bless journeys. Even today, when a young man goes off to serve in the army, he takes a bite of a loaf of bread, and the rest is kept by his family until he returns. It is a physical link between the person and their home. The tandoor is the heart of every Tajik house. Even in the modern apartment blocks of Dushanbe, you will see communal tandoors in the courtyards where neighbors take turns baking their weekly supply. But it's not just about the bread itself, it's about what it represents. Tajik hospitality is legendary. There is a saying, a guest is a gift from God. If you are traveling through the mountains and you look hungry or tired, people will literally pull you into their homes. They will set a dastakhan, a cloth spread on the floor, and pile it with bread, fruits, nuts, and sweets. Even the poorest families will offer their best food to a stranger. It is a code of honor that has survived wars, famines, and empires. Yeah, about that. This hospitality can sometimes be overwhelming for Westerners. You are expected to eat until you can barely move, and your tea bowl will be refilled the moment it is half empty. It is a beautiful, if slightly exhausting, experience. It shows a level of human connection that has been lost in much of the fast-paced digital world. In Tajikistan, the table is a sacred space where time slows down. The food that goes with the bread is equally hearty. The national dish is osh palof. It is a mountain of rice cooked with carrots, onions, and chunks of mutton. Every family has their own secret recipe, and osh competitions are a major part of local festivals. In the Pamirs, you might find sheer chai, a salty milk tea served with butter and crumbled bread. It sounds strange to an outsider, but at 14,000 feet, it is exactly what your body needs to stay warm. The culinary traditions of Tajikistan are a map of its history. You can taste the Persian influence in the spices, the nomadic influence in the meat and dairy, and the Soviet influence in the salads and soups. But at the center of it all, always, is the naan. It is the one constant in a landscape that is always changing. But outside the warmth of the kitchen, the streets of the cities are undergoing a transformation of their own. If you haven't been to Dushanbe in 10 years, you wouldn't recognize it. The capital of Tajikistan is undergoing one of the most rapid and controversial urban transformations in the world. For decades, it was a sleepy, green Soviet city characterized by low-rise Stalinist architecture and avenues lined with massive plane trees. But the government has a different vision. They want Dushanbe to be a modern capital, a city of white marble, glass towers, and record-breaking monuments. The center of this transformation is the Independence and Freedom Park. It features a tower 400 feet tall, crowned with a golden emblem. Nearby is the National Library, which is the largest in Central Asia, and the National Museum, a futuristic building with a giant dome. These buildings are designed to impress. They are statements of independence and wealth, built at a time when much of the country still struggles with poverty. The contrast is shocking. You can stand in front of a multi-million-dollar marble palace and see a Soviet-era trolleybus from the 1970s rattling past. One of the most impressive sights is the Koki Navruz. Originally planned as a tea house, it was expanded into a massive palace of Tajik handicrafts. It has 12 halls, each decorated in a different traditional style. There are wood carvings from the north, stone mosaics from the Pamirs, and ceiling paintings that took years to complete. It is a museum of the nation's artistic soul, used for high-level international summits. It shows that while the government wants to be modern, they are also desperate to keep and showcase their ancient Persian identity. But here is the catch. This new Dushanbe comes at a price. To make room for the marble, many of the historic Soviet buildings are being torn down. This has sparked a quiet but passionate debate among the residents. Many of the older generation feel that the city's soul is being ripped out. The massive plane trees that provided shade for generations are being cut down to widen roads for SUVs. The cozy, human-scale neighborhoods are being replaced by high-rise luxury apartments that most Tajiks can't afford. The city is also a place of strange records. Aside from the flagpole, Dushanbe is home to the largest tea house in the world and one of the largest mosques in the region, funded by Qatar. The mosque can hold over 100,000 worshippers at once. It is a sea of white domes and minarets that stand over the northern skyline. It reflects the complex role of religion in modern Tajikistan. The state is officially secular and keeps a very tight grip on religious expression, yet they build massive monuments to the faith. At night, Dushanbe transforms again. The new buildings are covered in neon lights that change colors, reflecting in the fountains that line the main avenues. The youth of the city gather in the parks, dressed in the latest Turkish and Russian fashions, drinking espresso in modern cafes. There is a sense of energy, of a generation that is looking outward. They are connected to the world via TikTok and Instagram, even if the internet speed is some of the slowest and most expensive in the world. But just a few miles from the neon lights, the reality of life in Tajikistan remains unchanged. The mahallas, or traditional neighborhoods, still operate on ancient social codes. Here, elders are respected and the community looks out for its own. Dushanbe is a city with two faces, one that looks toward a futuristic marble-clad destiny, and one that remains rooted in the dusty, hospitable traditions of the past. The city is a laboratory for the nation's future. It is where the dreams of the elite meet the survival instincts of the people. It is beautiful, confusing, and incredibly ambitious. But as the capital rises, the mountains in the north hold a different kind of treasure. While the south has cotton and the center has dams, the north of Tajikistan has gold. The Zeravshan Valley is one of the most mineral-rich areas in Central Asia. For thousands of years, people have been pulling precious metals out of these mountains. Even the name Zeravshan means spreader of gold in Persian. Today, mining is one of the most important sectors of the Tajik economy, but it is also one of the most secretive and sensitive in terms of world politics. The mountains are full of more than just gold. They contain silver, antimony, tungsten, and zinc. Antimony is a rare metal used in everything from batteries to flame retardants, and Tajikistan has some of the largest reserves on Earth. But getting these minerals out is a logistical nightmare. The mines are located in high, remote valleys where the roads are often blocked by snow and landslides. It requires massive investment and specialized machinery that the Tajik state simply doesn't have. Basically, this has led to a massive influx of foreign investment, primarily from China. Chinese companies now control many of the largest gold mines in the Zeravshan and Pamir regions. They build the roads, provide the technology, and bring in their own workers. This has created a complex relationship. On one hand, the investment provides jobs and tax money for the government. On the other hand, there is a growing concern about the loss of national independence. Many Tajiks worry that their country's natural wealth is being sold off to pay back the massive debts owed to Beijing. The conditions in the mines are brutal. Workers often spend weeks at a time in high-altitude camps, working in deep tunnels where the air is stale and the risk of collapse is constant. It is a high-stakes world where fortunes are made and lives are lost. There are also informal miners, known as stalkers, who head into the abandoned Soviet mines or pan for gold in the icy rivers. It is dangerous, illegal work, but for a young man in a remote village with no other job prospects, it is a risk worth taking. The environmental impact of mining is another WTF factor. In the Soviet era, little thought was given to the waste. Today, there are massive tailings ponds, reservoirs of toxic chemicals used to separate the gold from the rock, sitting near major rivers. If one of these ponds were to breach during an earthquake, it would poison the water supply for millions of people. The government is working with international agencies to secure these sites, but it is a massive, expensive task. Yet, the allure of the gold remains. It is what pays for the marble palaces in Dushanbe and the new turbines in the Nurek Dam. It is the hidden engine of the state. When you see a golden dome on a mosque or a golden emblem on a tower, you are looking at the literal blood and sweat of the miners in the north. The Zeravshan Valley is a place of incredible beauty, where ancient villages cling to the hillsides above modern industrial complexes. It is where the past and the future collide in the search for wealth. The wealth of the mountains is Tajikistan's greatest hope and its greatest challenge. It draws the world's superpowers into a race for influence, turning these remote peaks into a front line of the new great game. But as empires fight over gold, the nomads of the high plateau care about something much simpler: their herds. Survival at 14,000 feet. In the far east of Tajikistan, on the high Murghab Plateau, the Tajiks are the minority. This is the land of the Kyrgyz. These are nomadic herders who have lived in these high-altitude deserts for centuries. Their life is defined by the seasons and the needs of their animals. At 14,000 feet, the air is so thin that trees cannot grow, and the ground is frozen for much of the year. This is one of the most impossible inhabited places on Earth, yet the Kyrgyz have built a thriving culture here. The center of their world is the yak. These massive, shaggy beasts are perfectly adapted to the cold and the thin air. For the Kyrgyz, the yak is everything. It provides meat for food, milk for butter and yogurt, wool for clothing and felt, and dung for fuel. In a place where there is no wood to burn, dried yak dung is the only way to cook and stay warm. The animals are also used as pack animals, capable of carrying heavy loads over passes that would eliminate a horse. The Kyrgyz live in yurts, circular, portable tents made of a wooden frame covered in thick felt. A yurt is a masterpiece of nomadic design. It can be taken down or set up in less than an hour, yet it is warm enough to last through a Pamir blizzard. Inside, the floor is covered in colorful shirdaks, or felt carpets, and the walls are lined with embroidered bags containing the family's possessions. It is a cozy, self-contained world that can be moved whenever the grass runs out. But the life of a nomad is not a romantic poem. It is incredibly hard work. The herders must move their animals to different pastures several times a year, often crossing dangerous terrain. In the winter, they hunker down in stone houses in Murgab or small settlements where temperatures can drop to -50 degrees Fahrenheit. Access to healthcare and education is limited. If someone gets sick in a remote camp, the nearest doctor might be a 10-hour drive away over a broken road. The collapse of the Soviet Union hit the Kyrgyz of the Pamirs hard. In the Soviet era, they were part of massive state-owned farms and received regular supplies of flour, coal, and medicine. When the system collapsed, they were left to fend for themselves in a wilderness with no resources. They had to relearn the ancient skills of their ancestors to survive. Today, they are slowly rebuilding, often with the help of tourism. Many travelers come to the Pamirs specifically to experience the nomadic life, staying in yurts and eating traditional meals with the herders. Yeah, about that. The Kyrgyz of Tajikistan are a distinct group from the people in Kyrgyzstan. They have their own dialect and their own customs, shaped by their isolation. They are caught between two worlds, the modern Tajik state and their ancient nomadic traditions. They are a bridge between the past and the present, living in a landscape that hasn't changed in 10,000 years. Watching a Kyrgyz girl on horseback herding yaks across a vast, sun-drenched plateau, it is easy to forget the 20th century even happened. There is a profound sense of freedom in this landscape, a feeling that here, human-made laws matter less than the laws of the mountain. The Kyrgyz are the masters of the high desert, the people who prove that humans can live anywhere if they are tough enough. But as the nomads follow the grass, the glaciers above them are disappearing. The mountains of Tajikistan are beautiful, but they are also weak. Climate change is hitting the roof of the world harder and faster than almost anywhere else. The glaciers, which have fed the rivers of Central Asia for millennia, are melting at an alarming rate. Since the 1930s, Tajikistan has lost over 1,000 glaciers. The Fedchenko Glacier, the giant of the Pamirs, has shrunk by nearly a mile in length and has lost a staggering amount of its mass. This is not just an environmental tragedy, it is a life-threatening problem. These glaciers are the water towers of the region. They act as a giant frozen reservoir, releasing water slowly during the hot summer months when the crops in the lowlands need it most. As the glaciers shrink, the rivers initially become fuller and more dangerous, leading to more frequent and violent floods and mudslides. But in the long run, the water will run out. Scientists estimate that by the end of the century, the total volume of glaciers in Tajikistan could be reduced by half. Basically, this means that the entire agricultural system of Central Asia is on a collision course with reality. The cotton fields of the south, the fruit orchards of the north, and the massive dams that provide electricity all depend on a steady flow of meltwater. If that flow becomes unpredictable or disappears, the region faces a future of water wars and economic collapse. Tajikistan, as the source of the water, will be at the center of this crisis. The people in the mountains are already seeing the changes. Every year, the floods from glacial lakes become more common. These happen when a natural dam made of ice or rock debris fails, releasing a wall of water into the valleys below. In 2015, a series of these floods and mudslides destroyed hundreds of homes in the GBAO region, wiping out entire villages and cutting off the Pamir Highway for weeks. For the people living there, climate change is not a theory. It is a force that is destroying their homes today. The Tajik government is sounding the alarm on the global stage. President Rahman has become a leading voice at international climate summits, calling for the protection of glaciers and the creation of a global fund to help mountain nations adapt. They're also moving toward green energy, looking at solar and wind power to complement their hydro dams. But the scale of the problem is global. Tajikistan can do everything right, but if the world keeps warming, the Pamir ice will keep melting. The melting of the glaciers also reveals secrets that have been hidden for centuries. Archaeologists are finding ancient tools and remains that have been kept in the ice, giving us a glimpse into the lives of the people who crossed these passes thousands of years ago. It is a bittersweet discovery, a gain for science at the cost of the environment. The future of Tajikistan is tied to its ice. As the white peaks turn to grey rock, the nation must find a way to adapt to a thirsty world. The roof of the world is slowly losing its cover, and the consequences will be felt far beyond the borders of this small mountain nation. But even as the ice melts, the spirit of the people remains as hard as the stone they live on. The ancient silk trade is returning, but this time it is paved with billions in debt. While the main cities of Tajikistan get the most visitors, the true heart of the country is found in places that do not have gift shops or luxury hotels. To complete the ultimate travel list, one must look at the final 15 sites on the hidden map. For starters, let's talk about Juri village. It is a place where time has stood still. The houses are made of stone and wood, with ceilings carved in patterns that are over 500 years old. There is no internet here, and the people still cook over open fires. It is hands down the most real look at Pamiri life you can get. But if you want something totally unexpected, head back to Dushanbe for Delphin Aqua Park. It is a modern water park with slides and pools that feel like they belong in Florida. It is a weird contrast to the rough mountains just a few miles away. It shows that the Tajik middle class is growing and wants the same fun as everyone else. Then there is the Botanical Garden in Korog. It is one of the highest botanical gardens on the planet, sitting at nearly 7,500 feet. They have species of plants there that don't grow anywhere else in the world. If you are a hiker, you have to reach the seventh of the 7 lakes. While many people stop at the 3rd or 4th lake, the 7th is the highest and most mystical. It is surrounded by sheer cliffs and feels like a cathedral of stone. Nearby is the Varzob Gorge, a favorite weekend getaway for people in the capital. It is full of riverside restaurants where you can eat fresh trout while sitting on a tapchan, a raised platform over the water. It is the ultimate way to beat the 100-degree heat of the summer. For those who want history, the Hysor Valley offers more than just the fort. It is a fertile area full of orchards where they grow some of the world's sweetest grapes. Not far from there is the Takop Ski Resort. Yeah, Tajikistan has skiing. It is basic compared to the Alps, but the snow is incredible and the prices are a fraction of what you would pay in the United States. It is a hidden gem for budget travelers who aren't afraid of a bumpy road to get to the lift. Further out, the Rasht Valley is a place of deep history and tragedy. It was a major battleground during the Civil War in the 1990s, and for a long time it was a no-go zone. Today, it is safe and famous for its honey and walnuts. The Bartang Valley is even more remote. It is a trail that follows a raging river through canyons so deep they only see the sun for a few hours a day. The people there live in small settlements of only 5 or 6 houses, completely cut off during the winter. The Russian district is the gateway to the high Pamirs. It is home to the ruins of several ancient forts that used to guard the Silk Road. The Xing River offers some of the best rafting in Central Asia, with Class 4 rapids that will test even the most experienced paddlers. And finally, the Pamir Botanical Garden in Korog is a peaceful end to the journey, showcasing the local plants of the roof of the world. These 50 sites are just the beginning. Every time a new road is built or a new trail is blazed, another secret of Tajikistan is revealed. But as the country opens up, it is struggling with a new kind of identity crisis. To understand modern Tajikistan, you have to understand the Aryan myth. Since independence, the government has been on a mission to find a national identity that has nothing to do with the Soviet Union. They have landed on the idea that Tajiks are the direct descendants of the ancient Aryans, an Indo-Iranian people who lived in Central Asia thousands of years ago. This is not just a history lesson, it is a massive state project. The year 2006 was even officially declared the Year of Aryan Civilization by the president. The goal is to link the modern Tajik people to a glorious ancient past. They point to the language which is closely related to Old Persian and the physical features of the people in the high mountains, who sometimes have blonde hair and blue eyes. They want to show that they are a noble, ancient race with deep roots in the soil. But here's the catch. This Aryan identity is a sensitive topic. In the West, the word has a dark history because of its use by the Nazis, but in Tajikistan, it is used as a source of national pride and unity. This myth-building is visible everywhere. The massive statue of Ismail Somoni in Dushanbe is the centerpiece of this effort. He was a ruler from the 10th century, but today he is treated like the father of the nation. His image is on the currency, and his name is on the highest mountain and the most prestigious awards. The government uses his legacy to promote the idea of a strong, centralized state. They want the people to see themselves as part of a grand history that was stopped by the Mongols and the Soviets. But it's not that simple, though. Tajikistan is a diverse country. In the east, the Pamiri people have their own distinct languages and a different branch of Islam. In the north, there is a large Uzbek minority. By focusing so heavily on a specific Tajik Aryan identity, the government risks turning away these other groups. It is a delicate balancing act. They use the Aryan label to tell themselves apart from their Turkic neighbors, like the Uzbeks and Kyrgyz, pointing out their Persian heritage. The crazy part is how this affects daily life. History books have been rewritten to focus on the Aryan roots. Museums are filled with objects that supposedly prove the link. National holidays like Navruz are celebrated with even more intensity as Aryan festivals. It is a way of saying, we were here first and we are still here. This search for roots is common in many post-Soviet states, but in Tajikistan, it is taken to the extreme. What most people don't realize is that this isn't just about pride, it is about survival. Tajikistan is a small, poor country surrounded by much larger neighbors. By building a strong national myth, the state hopes to prevent the kind of regional divisions that led to the Civil War in the 90s. They want a single, unified story that everyone can get behind. And that's putting it lightly. For many Tajiks, this new identity is a welcome change after decades of being told they were just a small part of the Soviet machine. But while the government looks back at the ancient past, they are also looking at the massive debts they owe to their neighbors. The new great game is being played out in the mountains of Tajikistan. For a long time, Russia was the big player here, providing security and jobs for migrants. But in the last decade, a new giant has entered the arena: China. Tajikistan shares a border with China's Xinjiang region, and for Beijing, this small country is a vital part of the Belt and Road Initiative. They want roads, pipelines, and stability, and they are willing to pay for it, but it comes with strings attached. Tajikistan currently owes billions of dollars to China. This is not a small amount. It represents nearly 40% of the country's total debt from outside. The money has gone into massive road and building projects, new tunnels, bridges, and the power lines that connect the north to the south. Without Chinese money, Dushanbe wouldn't have its new marble buildings, and the Pamir Highway would be in even worse shape. But the question is, how will they pay it back? The crazy part is that Tajikistan has already started paying with land and resources. In 2011, the Tajik parliament voted to give up over 400 square miles of land in the Pamirs to China to settle a border dispute. More recently, Chinese companies have been given long-term mining rights for gold and silver mines in exchange for building power plants and roads. To many critics, this looks like debt trap diplomacy. If Tajikistan can't pay the cash, China takes the land or the minerals. Russia is not happy about this. They still have a massive military base in Tajikistan, the 201st military base, with thousands of troops. Russia sees Central Asia as its near abroad and its traditional area of influence. They provide the security that keeps the border with Afghanistan stable. But Russia's economy is struggling, and they cannot match the billions of dollars that China is throwing around. So, Tajikistan is forced to play the two giants against each other, taking security from one and cash from the other. This tug of war in world politics has real consequences for the people. Most of the high-paying jobs on Chinese projects go to Chinese workers, not locals. There are thousands of Chinese laborers living in camps across the country, which has led to occasional protests and bad feelings. People worry that their country is being sold piece by piece. Basically, Tajikistan is walking a tightrope. They need the investment to survive, but they don't want to become a satellite state of Beijing. The debt is also a ticking time bomb for the economy. Tajikistan is one of the poorest countries in the former Soviet Union. Their main source of income is the money sent home by migrants working in Russia. If the Russian economy crashes, or if China demands immediate payment, the Tajik state could face going broke. It is a high-stakes gamble with the nation's future. Every new bridge built with Chinese steel is another link in a chain of debt that could last for generations. And as the government worries about the debt to China, they are also worried about the foreign clothes their citizens are wearing. In Tajikistan, what you wear can get you in trouble. In June of 2024, the government passed a new law that effectively banned the wearing of foreign clothing. This was aimed directly at the hijab and other religious outfits that have become popular among conservative Muslim women. The government argues that these clothes are not from here and are a sign of growing religious extremism. They want women to wear traditional Tajik outfits made of atlas silk with bright patterns and matching headscarves tied in the Tajik style. This is not just a suggestion, it is a law. There have been reports of police stopping women in the streets and telling them to remove their hijabs or tie them differently. Offices and hospitals have reportedly denied entry to women wearing non-traditional clothes. The government even set up groups to watch how people dress. The fine for breaking the law can be as high as $700, a massive amount in a country where the average monthly salary is less than $200. The war on foreign influence doesn't stop with women's clothes. For years, there has been an unofficial campaign against long beards on men. Police have reportedly stopped young men in the streets and forcibly shaved them, claiming that a long beard is a sign of radical ideas. The state is terrified of the influence of groups like ISIS or the Taliban from across the border in Afghanistan. They believe that by controlling the outward appearance of the people, they can control what they think. But here's the deal. This crackdown is controversial. While some people support the idea of keeping Tajik culture, many others see it as an attack on their personal and religious freedoms. They argue that a hijab is a matter of faith, not a political statement. By pushing so hard against religious expression, the government might actually be turning away the very people they are trying to protect. It creates a sense of us versus them that can be dangerous in a country with a history of civil war. The government also controls how people celebrate life's big moments. There is a law that limits how many people can be invited to a wedding and how much food can be served. You are not allowed to have more than 150 guests at a wedding banquet, and the party cannot last more than 3 hours. If you break these rules, you face a huge fine. The state says this is to prevent families from going into debt for huge parties, but many people see it as another example of the government interfering in their private lives. This control extends to the naming of children. There is an official list of approved names that parents must choose from. If you want to give your child a name that sounds too Arabic or too foreign, the office might say no. The goal is to ensure that every citizen has a pure Tajik identity from birth. It is an extreme level of social engineering designed to build a unified, secular, and nationalist society. The state's grip is tightening every year. They are trying to build a nation that is modern and secular, but rooted in ancient Persian traditions. It is a bold experiment in social control. But while the government focuses on clothes and names, the tourism industry is booming, bringing in thousands of foreigners with their own ideas and cameras. Tajikistan is suddenly hot on the travel map. In the first half of 2025, foreign tourist arrivals jumped by 31% compared to the year before. Over 760,000 people crossed the border in just 6 months. Most of them are from neighboring countries like Uzbekistan and Russia, but there is a growing wave of Westerners looking for the ultimate off-the-beaten-path adventure. They want to drive the Pamir Highway, trek in the Fan Mountains, and stay in remote yurts. The government is thrilled. They have made tourism a main part of their economic plan. They have introduced a simple e-visa system and removed many of the old Soviet-era travel restrictions. New hotels are popping up in Dushanbe and Kujand, and there is a push to train more English-speaking guides. For a country that needs world currency, tourism looks like the perfect solution. But as the numbers grow, the holes in the system are starting to show. The crazy part is the lack of basic roads and buildings. Once you leave the capital, the roads are a nightmare. The Pamir Highway is falling apart under the weight of more traffic and landslides. There is a serious lack of affordable hostels and budget hotels. Outside the main cities, internet is almost non-existent. For a modern traveler who relies on Google Maps and Instagram, this can be a shock. There is also a major problem with trash in popular spots like Iskandakul, where the waste from tourists is starting to pile up. There is also a tension between adventure tourism and the government's desire for luxury tourism. The state wants to build high-end resorts and 4-star hotels, but the people who actually visit Tajikistan are mostly backpackers, climbers, and cyclists. They are not looking for marble lobbies, they are looking for real experiences. If the country becomes too shiny, it might lose the very roughness that makes it attractive in the first place. The price of travel is also rising. The cost of a 4x4 rental with a driver can be as high as $100 a day, which is a lot for a budget traveler. There are also hidden costs, like the permit needed for the Pamirs and various park fees. Some travelers have reported being asked for bribes by local police at checkpoints. Although the government has worked hard to stop this, it is still a frontier destination with all the excitement and frustration that comes with it, but the real challenge is keeping things the same. Can the weak environment of the High Pamirs handle thousands of more visitors every year? Can the local culture survive being turned into a tourist attraction? In some villages, the traditional hospitality is starting to feel like a business. It is a classic problem for developing nations. How do you grow the economy without losing your soul? Tajikistan is at a crossroads. It is no longer a hidden secret, it is a rising star. But the road ahead is as bumpy as the Akbaital Pass. A forbidden dress and a secret beard might be the spark for a new revolution. To understand the tension in Tajikistan today, you have to look back at the 1990s. While the rest of the world was celebrating the end of the Cold War, Tajikistan was descending into a living nightmare. Between 1992 and 1997, this country was the site of the bloodiest conflict in the former Soviet Union. It wasn't a war against a foreign invader, it was a war of brother against brother, region against region. Estimates of the death toll range from 60,000 to over 100,000 people. In a nation of only 6 million at the time, that is a shocking percentage of the population. The roots of the war were a mess of regional rivalries and clashes over ideas. On one side was the government, backed by the old Soviet elites from the Khujand and Kulub regions. On the other was the united Tajik opposition, a mix of democratic reformers and Islamists, many of whom were from the Gam and Gorno-Badakhshan regions. But here's the catch. It wasn't just about politics. It was about which clan would control the few resources the country had left after the Soviet collapse. The fighting was brutal, involving ethnic cleansing, the destruction of entire villages, and a massive refugee crisis that saw hundreds of thousands flee to Afghanistan. The crazy part is how quickly the society fell apart. Dushanbe became a battlefield. Snipers sat on the roofs of the marble-clad buildings we see today. The economy stopped. People were eating grass to survive. It was a total breakdown of order that left a scar on the national mind that is still visible 30 years later. When the peace treaty was finally signed in 1997, it was a miracle of compromise. The opposition was given 30% of the government positions, and the country began the long, slow process of rebuilding. But it's not that simple, though. In the years since the war, the government has slowly pushed the former opposition out of power. The Islamic Renaissance Party was declared a terrorist organization and banned in 2015. Most of its leaders are now in prison or in exile. The state uses the memory of the civil war to justify its iron grip on power. Their message to the people is clear: it is better to have no freedom than to have another war. For many Tajiks who remember the hunger and the bullets, that is an argument they are willing to accept. What most people don't realize is how the war shaped the country's geography. The Gam and Pamir regions, which were the strongholds of the opposition, have faced decades of lack of investment. This has fueled a sense of bad feelings that occasionally boils over into violence. In 2012 and again in 2022, the government sent the military into the Pamirs to crush local protests.